What movie or series lit your fuse and made you have to tell stories on screen?
Unlike most entertainers, directors, or whatever, it's not something I always wanted to do. It was something I always loved doing. I loved watching films and loved comedy and loved TV in particular. I mean, the TV for a working class kid was like a window to the rest of the world. You know, I remember when we first got it, I was there, sat in front of it until I left home. But entertaining wasn't a job you sort of did growing up in my environment. You know, I knew I had to get a real job. I went to university, and so I suppose all the influences are almost in retrospect, but they do go in. I suppose what I'm saying is, as a kid, I never watched a film and said, I want to be an actor or I want to be a director. It was just something that was enthralling or educational or entertaining. One film that had a profound effect, an early film for lots of reasons, was The Jungle Book. My mum took me to see it when I was like 7. It might have been the first time I can remember going to a real cinema. I got sweets. I remember the carpet was going up the walls. It was like a cathedral to me. And then the film blew me away. The bit with Baloo, I remember sobbing. And I remember my mum consoling me, sort of trying to let me know it's going to be all right, you know. And I remember walking home with my mum. I said to her, will I care when you die? Which is a strange thing for a kid to say. And my mum said, you'll care, but you'll be old enough to cope with it. And I remember that. So it's all the things surrounding it. My love of animals and, you know, the fact that I was with my mum and, so yeah. And also when I went to school the next day, I do remember that we were meant to, you know, talk about something we did. And I got the class to reenact Jungle Book. And it went on so long that the teacher said, okay, Ricky, it's home time. So I guess I did want to be a director, or just order people around, or just be the centre of attention. I don't know. But I suppose all my early influences were watching old films with my mum as a kid. And I mean old, I mean, you know, Jimmy Cagney, Angels with Dirty Faces is still in my top 10. An amazing film that had a effect on me. And, you know, things like Casablanca, things like Hitchcock, and then the 70s classics like, you know, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Marathon Man, those amazing 70s movies, really about something, you know, great, amazing screenplays, amazingly directed, amazing actors with presence, not just stars, you know. So I went through that. TV was doing the same. Things like the Waltons. There was always a nobility in poverty, so I love things like the Waltons. And everything I've ever loved since is always about honour. It can get me every time. Someone being honourable. It breaks me. I think as a comedian, I've got to stay an outsider. We're court jesters, and we've got to be down with the peasants, making them laugh at the king. Okay, not too much. We don't want to be executed, you know. So I've got to play that. So I come out with a beer. I'm the wrong man for the job, and I'm doing it to let the people at home know this is for them. You've got to make a choice. Do I pander to the 200 egos in the room or the 200 million people watching at home? And there's no contest because they're not millionaires. They're not winning awards. What's in it for them? So yeah, I suppose I do want to be on the right side.
On your way up, what movie or series did you watch that was so good it made you question if you could ever rise to that level?
Too many. And I still think like that. So you've sort of got to find your niche. If I thought I was in the same category, I watch a film like Godfather or Schindler's List or Wall Street, and I don't try and compete. No, No, but then I can do things that I admire. You know, give me an ordinary guy being stupid or funny or aspiring to something that he can't quite do. You know, I think it was Billy Wilder, who is, I mean, he's a hero on every sort of step of the way in movie making. He said his 10 commandments, the first 9 were thou shalt not bore, and number 10 was get final edit. And so I knew I just had to do it my way. But I looked up at people, and I still look up at people, and people I know now. You know, people like Christopher Guest, who became is a friend, and he was sort of a mentor early days, because Spinal Tap, I think, was the greatest comedy film I'd ever seen. I've watched it 50 times, and then I met him because he was a fan of The Office. So I still pinch myself, you know. I don't go around looking at things going, I could do that. I go around going, I couldn't do that, but I can do this. And some people can't do that. And I think my niche has always been be braver, be more honest, have more emotion. Those are the things you can just do.
Whether it was your own work or approval from someone who mattered to you, what first gave you the confidence that you belonged?
I'm still not quite sure I belong. And I've got to embrace that, to stay an outsider and not be beholden to anyone and do my own thing. You know, when I first did The Office and then, told the BBC I wanted to be in charge, I think they let me have my own way because I was low risk. It didn't cost much. It went out in the summer on BBC Two. No one cared about it. And once you get it once, you sort of get it again. But to get that privilege, there's still a compromise. I had to go to smaller stations who didn't interfere. So it was BBC Two, not BBC One, Channel 4, not ITV, HBO, not NBC. And then Netflix comes along and they say, you know what, we don't interfere at all. And we've got 180 million subscribers, right? The sky's the limit. So it's the best of all worlds for me. So I was very lucky that I found it's like it was made for me. So I just do my thing. I do my thing like it's just for me. Like I was going to put it in a drawer, like some people write poetry. It then just goes on a global platform. But I don't treat it differently. I don't treat anything differently, whether it's going to be seen by one person or a billion. The awards are lovely, but it's the work. I wake up every morning and I go, what am I going to write today? How exciting. You know, I write a bit of stand-up and I know it's going to be seen by millions of people. It's still a joy and a privilege. And so I think I better give them something they haven't seen before. Every day is still an exciting new adventure.
What was the biggest obstacle you overcame that allowed you to turn the projects that influenced you into your own language?
I suppose getting final edit. But even that, I was still scared and militant for the first, even though they were saying I had final edit, I still feared executives coming onto the set. Even if they said something nice, I didn't want them to. I remember when I did my first movie, The Invention of Lying, they said, we've got to do a focus group. I said, what's that? And they said, well, people come and watch it and they give you notes. And I went, why are they giving me notes? And they went, well, they might have a good idea. And I called Christopher Guest and I said, I don't want to do it. And he said, well, why would you? He said, if you're going to let them help you edit it, why don't you write it with them next time? Which I thought was so funny. And I still remember the focus group. I didn't take any notes. I thought it and I left it as it was. There was no enjoyment for it. It scored pretty well, but there was one woman that kept putting her hand up and they're saying, what didn't you like about it? She said something like, the religious undertones. And they said, did you notice any errors? And she went something like, oh yes, the bride didn't have a bouquet, right? And then the best one, they said, what would you change about the film? And she put her hand up and I'm at the back, quiet, right? She put her hand up, she said, I'd have Jim Carrey play the lead role. I thought, well then why? And I laughed, and people sort of looked round. So getting over that, not fearing interference anymore, maybe not my, and now I ask people's opinions. Now I know I'm secure that I'm in charge. I even ask people on Twitter what they thought of stuff. It's that security that you've got to have. Otherwise it feels like you're fighting off people with pitchforks and you've got this lit piece of wood. You feel that everyone's trying to ruin your thing, which often isn't true. And it took me 10 years to embrace the fact that if you're doing something that's interesting or original, that as many people have to hate it as love it. The more you can polarize, the more you're doing something. So now I embrace it, like wiggling a tooth. I love that people hate my stuff as much as people love it, because it means I'm doing something right.
What keeps you optimistic that this industry will be able to rebound?
I haven't thought about it a lot. I just assume it will survive, because it's like a cockroach. It's like, and I mean that in the nicest possible way. It'll adapt. Whatever has to be done, it will adapt. It might not be exactly the same, but it adapts anyway, you know. Things change, technology, people, attitudes, they all gradually change, and something big makes a big change. You know, reality TV shows came out of the writer's strike about 10 years ago. You know, there's always things that change and mutate. And whatever happens in technology or the world or Hollywood versus TV or whatever, one thing won't change, and that's storytelling. That's who we are. You know, that's why we evolved. You know, empathy around the campfire, trading ideas, getting to know people, caring about our species. You know, that'll never change. You know, it went from face to face to books, from books to moving picture, silent to talkies, black and white to colour, you know, analog to digital, TV to internet, whatever, internet to the next thing. But, you know, that will always be the same. One human being telling another human being what they know and what sort of day they've had. And it'll just carry on. It'll just carry on.